Battlefield 1 was released way back in 2016, but that doesn't mean that its multiplayer base is extinct, far from it. The game still enjoys an active multiplayer community, and it's totally possible for returning or new players to get back into the game. In this video I wanted to provide some insight into what it's like to play in 2020, my thoughts on differences between this and modern titles, as well as the pros and cons of buying a 4-year-old Battlefield. A quick disclaimer is that I'm reviewing the current status on PC, so the actual state of the game on console may vary slightly, but the overall theme should remain consistent. The first thing to discuss is the multiplayer, which is great fun, if a bit limited. The Chaos of Operations is a refreshing change from Battlefield 5 and its comparatively slower paced Grand Operations mode. There's a great degree of map variety, with the Argonne Forest providing luscious green landscape while maps around the Suez Canal offer a desolate Sahara. Gameplay is fast and intense, with the limited ticket system forcing a constant aggressive playstyle that is geared towards the advantage of attackers in most scenarios. The rudimentary attack and defence system, although less diverse than what is to be found in Battlefield 5, is no less enjoyable. The simplicity is charming and intense, with the mechanics of the game feeling as modern as any other title. Playing full 32v32 lobbies or operations is easy, with multiple lobbies to choose from most times. It is worth noting that due to the smaller active player base, there are less active matches to choose from, so if you're taking a beating on a certain map, backing out and searching for another match may simply land you back where you started. In my opinion, this isn't much of a problem, as it encourages commitment amongst players and teaches a better overall mentality. Having players quit negatively impacts the experience of everyone, so I frankly don't see this as a problem. You should be prepared for this eventuality though, as map balance in this game mode varies wildly, massively favouring one side from the other. There will definitely be occasions where you hand out a beating, but you also need to be able to take one if you want the proper Battlefield 1 experience. Playing other game modes such as Team Deathmatch, Domination or Conquest is also totally possible, as they have their own pools of committed players, although you may struggle to find lobbies for more niche game modes like War Pigeons. Also, with regards to things to be prepared for, you should be ready to be verbally abused by at least 3 people per lobby. You will find yourself insulted and death wished upon you at least once a match. This is obviously not exclusive to Battlefield, but a key feature of the gameplay experience nonetheless. The gameplay itself is excellent, with a diverse range of weapons and vehicles to choose from. Any playstyle from reserve sniper to aggressive shotgunner can be equally rewarding. Getting aggressive can be accomplished in a variety of ways, and is not restricted to charging around with a shotgun. It's totally possible to contribute to your team in a variety of ways, you just have to plan. Player skill in this game is far more important than any particular weapon. Learning maps is also crucial, as the great diversity in maps forces a variation in playstyle, which I think is excellent. It keeps the game fluid and fast paced, you simply cannot play the same on every map. The vehicles of this game are a love-hate relationship. The length of time this game has been around means that you will absolutely get steamrolled by players who have mastered vehicles. Seeing pilots with 150 service stars is not uncommon. Vehicles in this game are perhaps a tad overpowered, as it can require a large team effort to remove a stubborn tank. But these vehicles are fun and enjoyable to use. A tank, if used well, can see you getting large kill numbers whilst contributing to objectives. Certainly, if you push too hard you will get killed pretty quick, but the vehicles all pack a punch and are excellent in a variety of scenarios. The controls them are intuitive and the learning curve is nice and shallow. As for planes however, the learning curve is pretty much vertical. The controls aren't quite as responsive to Battlefield 5 and require some serious getting used to, but if you can master the flying of this game, God knows you'll be a force to be reckoned with. One grey area in the vehicle department though is the behemoths. Spawned exclusively in operations, these vehicles are horrendously overpowered and an absolute pain to deal with. Blimps and dreadnoughts can cross-map you at spawn, have far too much health and far too many guns, and they will be the bane of your life in operations, but they can be destroyed with some commitment and are, admittedly, very fun to use yourself. They fit well into the operations mode and are a key feature of it, you just have to be ready to die without being able to do anything about it. Weapons in this game are diverse and well balanced. There's no particular weapon, in any class, that stands out in my eyes. Each gun has its pros and cons that mean player preference and style is far more important than statistics. You will obviously see some more commonly than others, such as the Russian Sniper or Annihilator Trench, but equally, using an uncommon gun is just rewarding. With equipment it's a little different as there's less variety. There are absolutely some obsolete pieces here and there that offer a novelty factor over actual in-game use. The support crossbows being an obvious example. They look cool but are tricky to use and relatively ineffective. When there are better options out there like the mortars, there's really no point using these alternatives. There's also a rather large amount of guns locked behind DLC walls, which is pretty annoying if you only have the base game. Progression in this game is rewarding, but I will admit that you do notice the lack of choice pretty quickly. Each class has roughly 10 guns initially, with an extra 2 that can be unlocked upon reaching class rank 10. This is fine for me personally, but if you like changing up your weapon on a regular basis, you're going to feel hampered. The major difference between BF1 and BF5 is the customization, and this is probably the only area where this game really shows its age. You can't change anything about the guns you're using besides the camo, if it has a bayonet or not, and the level of zoom along with the iron sight. No change in magazines or barrels or anything like that, though this definitely makes the game feel less dense and customisable, as it reduces the amount of influence that the player can have over their time during the game. But at the same time it creates a level playing field for all, so it clearly has a purpose. That being said, it undeniably dates the game, not being able to have any influence over the weapons you're using. The same can be said of soldier customizability, there simply isn't any. There's also a lack of challenges as there's no camo system for them to fit into. There are challenges for guns to unlock, which are a definite challenge and very rewarding, but these are highly limited. The game also uses a battle pack system to unlock camos for guns. To me, this feels very dated. There aren't a great variety of camos in the game, none that particularly stand out as incredible, and certainly none that an enemy would notice on your weapon. Whilst unlocking a legendary camo is nice and exciting, ultimately it makes very little difference. Realistically, the battle pack system is a side feature at best. What the game does have going for it in this department is the service starter feature, which does make up for it. Knowing that your kills with the gun is displayed to everyone you kill is pretty nice. Whilst this whole camo thing may sound kind of disappointing, don't let it detract from the overall experience. The game feels very hardcore and all about the gameplay. It's a bare bones battlefield, where the point is to experience World War I without any distractions. A lack of fancy camos or player skins is very nice and makes the game feel balanced and retains all the realism it ever had. The graphics of the game are also excellent. They were cutting edge in 2016 and still hold up with ease today. The added bonus being that the game is comparatively easy to run by today's standards. I'm personally running everything at max settings at 60 FPS constant with no drops. My system, an i5-8400, GTX 1078GB and 16GB of RAM, isn't exactly a top-end gaming PC. Although the age does bring with it a slight problem in terms of support for the game from EA. As the game is now no longer the latest release in the Battlefield franchise, EA no longer support the game. By this I mean that there will no longer be any future content patches to the game, so what you see is what you get. But this also means that there's little moderation in terms of cheaters and modders. You will undoubtedly come across people with infinite health and damage mods in the game, that's just a fact of it. Now quitting or leaving works fine, you may need to change game mode, but ultimately you can deal with it. It's frustrating knowing that reporting people makes very little difference as EA aren't concerned with this game anymore, but you can kind of understand why. As long as you come at the game with an open mind, you're going to enjoy yourself, but be prepared to take a beating every now and then. But for the cost of the game, which is pretty cheap, it's hard to complain. You can pick this game up from any reputable online dealer for less than a tenner, or you can get it included with Origin Access Basic if you already have that. For the depth of this game, that's amazing value for money, as it's definitely got the depth you to sink plenty of hours into. Each multiplayer cast maxes out at 50, and the overall rank cap is 150. Ranking up itself feels worthwhile, and it's always rewarding to see the vast amounts of ribbons and medals that you can unlock, so there's definitely hours and hours of grinding to be enjoyed if that's your thing. I'll also briefly mention the war stories, as there's 5 of them. Each tells a unique story of a figure in World War I, and these are all great. Each will take you a few hours to complete and are rewarding their own way. The storytelling is excellent, the play even better, but these don't change with time and will always be this way. In my opinion, Battlefield 1 is a fantastic game that hopefully has many years left in it. It has a dedicated multiplayer base that means you get to experience the very best that this game has to offer. Yes, you may have to put up with some quirks of such a game in the form of unbalanced matches or the occasional modder, but that is a problem to be expected with any older title. Truthfully, this is a very cheap game that represents the best of the FPS genre. If you're looking at getting into Battlefield for the first time, I'd absolutely recommend it. It offers a good starting point for you to experience the gameplay with a simple customization system that is very favourable to new players. If you're a veteran of the franchise and wondering if there's even a game to go back to, I hope this video shows you that there is. It's excellent fun and it's a nice change of pace from Battlefield 5. I would strongly recommend giving it a try.